everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to have you guys back. We have been really busy, and it seems like every time I turn around I'm saying we're so busy, but we've been very busy at work. We've been very busy here at home. We finally are going to be moving into a little bit of a bigger place, so hopefully that will bring about some more fun DIYs for the home. But we are going to start packing up, and I hope that doesn't interrupt the videos that I have planned, but we'll see how that all goes. Maybe I'll share that journey with you all. But I'm really excited to have you guys back for the last video for the winter soup series. I said I would go through the end of January, and here we are, January 31st, and I'm really excited to share this video with you. We've got two amazing recipes. The first one is the Albondiga soup, and the last one that I'll be sharing with you is the Lobster Bisque. So don't get overwhelmed. They're actually very easy to make and amazingly delicious. You can definitely impress some people with these two soups. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I'm excited to be back on YouTube and sharing videos. So without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, so these are the ingredients you're going to need for the Albondiga soup. Now keep in mind I did double this recipe so you can easily cut this in half. So for the tomato-based part of the soup, you're going to need 5 Roma tomatoes, half an onion, and a teaspoon of garlic clove, minced. For the meatballs, you're going to need 2 pounds of extra lean ground beef, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of cumin, 3 mint leaves finely chopped, half a cup of carrots, that's going to be finely shredded, half a cup of zucchini, also finely shredded, a 1/4 cup of onion finely chopped, 1 egg, a tablespoon of flour, and a 1/4 cup of uncooked rice. Okay, so for the soup and vegetables, you're going to be needing 8 cups of chicken broth, 2 teaspoons of chipotle sauce, 2 carrots sliced, 2 celery sticks sliced, 1 chayote, which if you haven't heard of chayote, it's part of the squash family, and I'll make sure that I post a picture of it, and you're going to want that cubed. So other than that, we are all set. Just remember this recipe was doubled, so you can easily cut this in half. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so in a pan, go ahead and pour in about a tablespoon of oil. Let's get that nice and hot. And then we're going to go ahead and put in our tomatoes. And what we want to do is just go ahead and make those nice and toasty. And we're going to go ahead and add in our onions as well. We're going to wait a little bit on the garlic because we don't want the garlic to burn. So let's go ahead and get these nice and browned. And let's flip these tomatoes over. You can see the skin is already starting to lift. Look at nice and toasty. So let's go ahead and get these all turned around. And it only takes a couple of minutes. Okay, so now that we let those sit for a couple minutes, let's go ahead and add in our minced garlic. Now, if you happen to have a garlic clove and you just want to chop it up, you can do that as well. I happen to have minced garlic. We're going to throw all this into a blender in just a minute, and then we're going to puree it. So now that that's been sitting for about a minute, let's go ahead and throw that into the blender and puree it. Okay, so our next step, we're going to take our nice hot pot. We're going to go ahead and add our chicken stock. And then we're also going to add in the tomato, onion, and garlic that we just pureed. Okay, so while that gets hot and it comes to a boil, we're going to go ahead and start working on the meatballs. So like I said, this recipe is doubled, so I do have the 2 pounds of ground beef. Let's go ahead and add in our salt, our pepper, the cumin, and here we have the finely chopped mint. Here's the shredded carrots. And I happen to have a handheld shredder, so as you can tell, that's the normal size. I'm using the small size, so it's really finely shredded, and it turns out really nice. So we're just going to go ahead and get that poured right into that. And then I also did the same thing with the zucchini. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't blot out the moisture. So you want to make sure that you do that because it does add quite a bit of moisture to the ground beef. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's go ahead and add in our onion. And then let's just mix this up. Now you want to make sure that you incorporate all of the ingredients very well and you give this a really good mix, because this will help bind up the ground beef. If you just kind of half mix it, your meatballs will fall apart. So you want to make sure that they're really well mixed together. Here is the egg. Go ahead and add that in. And then I'm just going to use a spoon to kind of get that going before I start mixing again with my hands. And then I'm going to use a tablespoon of flour. And again, this will help bind everything together. And as I started mixing it, I realized that I had forgotten to blot out the moisture from the zucchini. So I ended up having to add a little bit of more flour. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and add in the rice. So if this happens to you as well, then you can always add in a little bit more flour. So that's what I ended up doing here. And that just kind of helps bind it all together. So as you can see here, the pot is already boiling. I didn't realize I had stopped recording. So as you can see, I've already added the vegetables. I've got the carrots, celery, and chayote. And at this point, I had also added the 2 teaspoons of chipotle sauce. So let's go ahead and keep moving. All I really need to add at this point is just the minced garlic. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and add that in. And bring that to a boil. We really don't want to overcook these vegetables. We just want them slightly tender. And as you can see there, you just put the fork right in, but it's a little still firm. So this is what the meatballs look like after they've been formed. Now the size of the meatball is up to you if you want them a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger. So that's completely up to your taste. So let's just go ahead and drop those right into the pot. And these in all reality just take a few minutes to cook. I would say maybe 5 to 8 minutes max. You don't want to stir it around because you don't want the meatballs to fall apart. So as you can see here, look at the form. They look really good. And because we're using the extra lean ground beef, the soup is not greasy. And our final ingredient here is the zucchini. And we're actually going to place the lid on for the final part because we want the zucchini to kind of steam, and it only takes a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes at the most. And you just want the zucchini to be tender. You don't want that to get mushy. So, and here's our soup. Look how beautifully formed these meatballs look. They completely stayed intact. And there is the zucchini. So we are all set and ready to go and enjoy this soup. And you are truly going to enjoy how all of these flavors come together with this soup. And then if you'd like, you can have it just like that, or you can go ahead and just garnish it with a little bit of cilantro, which is what I did here. And it's absolutely delicious. Okay, so on to the lobster bisque. The ingredients you're going to be needing are 4 lobster tails, a teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1 cup of white wine, 1 bay leaf, a tablespoon of oil, and a tablespoon of butter, 2 carrots, 2 celery sticks, 1/2 cup of onion, a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper, 4 ounces of tomato paste, and a 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. Okay, so in a large skillet, you're going to bring to boil about 4.5 cups of water. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the lobster tails. As you can see, they're a little smaller, which is why I ended up getting 4. But if you do happen to find maybe 2 large lobster tails, then go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and season our water. We're going to do that with the Old Bay seasoning. And then we're going to let these boil until they turn pink and have a little curl on them. Okay, so our lobster tails are now done. Let's go ahead and pull these out. Now we're going to set this skillet aside. We're not going to discard the water. We want to make sure that we keep that because that will be our lobster broth. So we will go ahead and move on to the next step. And what we're going to do is put the lobster tails on ice. And the reason we're doing that is because we want the lobster tails to stop cooking. We don't want the lobster meat to get chewy or rubbery. So let's go ahead and do that and set those aside. Okay, so now that our lobster tails are nice and chilled, we're going to go ahead and get those. And we're going to take our kitchen shears and we're going to cut it right down the middle on the inside. And then what we'll do is go ahead and pull out all of the lobster meat. Let me focus that a little better. There we go. Now, if you're strong enough just to break the shell and then pull out the lobster meat, then go ahead and do that. But I'm not, so I went ahead and used the shears. And then you're just going to pull the shell back, crack it, and pull out the meat. As you can tell, I struggle a little, but eventually I got it. And it's okay if you don't pull it all out in one big piece. We're going to end up chopping it up at the end. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save the tails, and we're going to use the shells and put those right back into the large skillet with the water that we used to boil it in. And like I said, we're making our lobster broth, so let's go ahead and start seasoning it. So now that we've added our shells, let's go ahead and add our thyme, our smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, a cup of white wine, I happen to be using a Chardonnay, and 1 bay leaf. So let's let that simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we now have our lobster broth. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and pull out all of the shells, and I'm going to end up straining it, but it's just easier to pull out the shells and then go ahead and pull all that broth out. So I'm just going to scoop that out just a little bit at a time so you can see how it just captures everything. But I did end up tipping that over into the big bowl, and here is our lobster broth. Okay, so our next step is in a large pot. We're going to make that nice and hot, add our oil, and we're going to go ahead and add our butter. And the recipe itself does have a couple of steps, but it's actually pretty easy. So let's go ahead and add our carrots, our celery, our onions. Give that a little stir. Okay, and next we're going to add our seasoning. So let's go ahead and add our salt and our pepper. Okay, give that a really good coating. We want to make sure all our vegetables are nice and coated with the seasoning. And then we're going to go ahead and cook this down until the onions are transparent. And there we go. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and add our tomato paste. And I know I said 4 ounces, so of the little cans, it's just a little over half. And then we're adding our lobster broth. Okay, so while that is boiling, let's go back to our lobster tail meat. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and cut this up into small pieces. Some of it will go back into the soup, and then the other part we'll just sprinkle it on top of the soup when it's in the bowl. Okay, so now that we've cut up all of the lobster tail meat, let's just go ahead and set some of it aside for later. Okay, so now that all of the vegetables are very soft, we are going to go ahead and use our handheld mixer. I went ahead and turned down the heat, and we are basically pureeing this. If you do not have a handheld mixer, go ahead and use your blender. Either way is just as easy. And as you can tell, we've gone ahead and pureed all of our vegetables. And because we turned down the heat, the temperature is now a little low, so we can go ahead and add the heavy whipping cream. Okay, let's just go ahead and give that a little stir. And now we're going to go ahead and add the lobster meat back into the soup. Mix it up, and this soup is ready to be served, and it is absolutely wonderful. You're really going to enjoy this. And there you have it. Amazing lobster bisque. And it's very easy. You can definitely impress your friends, your family, your kids. My kids absolutely loved it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys do make these soups. Go back and watch the other ones. I'll leave the links below so that you can see the whole series of the different soups that I've put together. They're amazingly delicious and just so wonderful, especially in the evenings when it's nice and cold. But anyway, I really do hope that you've enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought. Go back and watch the ones that are there and let me know which one was your favorite. And definitely follow me on Instagram. It's been a little bit quiet there the last few weeks, only because we've been so busy with the with the upcoming move and with work. But all in all, it's been wonderful. I'm glad I took this break. I feel a lot more refreshed and ready to move on. So we will see you in the next one.
Thank you all for watching, and as always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Love you all. Until next time.